All right, we'll just hit the live thing and make sure. Okay, good. I see us. Nice. Okay. Let me just finish sending this tweet. That's not the link that I want. Okay. Okay.
Exit that out. Where are the show notes go? Oh, there they are.
Okay, cool. All right, tweet is live. All right. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. All right. Welcome to episode 10 of the TCCG Roundtable. We're your hosts, dragonrider and Itachi. How's it going?
Good evening. How are you? I'm doing pretty good today. I answered my own question, but I was asking it to you and also answering. So I was doing two things at once.
I'm doing pretty well. We're getting hit with the huge Arctic cold storm right now, which is just literally feels like it's like sapping the life and energy out of me. I'm
Yep.
so cold and so tired. I'm just like ready for it to be gone, but that's
As
okay.
as 10,000 great men said, winter is coming. Uh,
Yes.
it is getting very cold today. I know you said you had some like negative temps, like negative
Oh yeah.
27 feels like negative 54.
Like feels like negative 40 something, I think is what it was, but yeah,
Or,
still.
yeah,
I mean, at that point, like it all feels the
who's
same.
counting after
There's no
negative 20, right? Nobody's
yeah.
counting after that
Like
number.
yeah, that those temperatures, yeah, you don't feel a difference between
At that point, they're just making up cold. Somebody's just making cold up.
exactly. But you know what? We don't have a guest this week, and figured this would be a good time to kind of take a look back and take a look forward. So before we do get to that topic, though, we have some news and some competitive play. Not a ton, but we'll work through that little bit. I'm sure in a couple of weeks and probably even like a month from now, that's when things are going to probably start ramping back up after the new
Hmm.
year. So let's talk about some news here. We have a couple of things. Eternal, they had their world championship, so they announced it during that. Their next expansion, which is Behemoths of Thera. It's a 200 plus card expansion that is coming out on January 18th. There are some pre purchase, like bundle options and stuff you can find through the article that we have linked there that breaks down everything. So that is pretty sweet. Their next expansion coming there.
Yep.
Then we had the right after, like the day after the World Championship ended for Hearthstone. Not only did they announce, then they also released. It was like, okay, here's a patch, go. Yeah, they totally announced and released an entire patch, patch 25.0.4 on Monday, December 19th. It had nerfs and buffs to
Hmm.
standard cards. They banned a wild card. They added changes for battlegrounds and for arena. There was a bunch of bug fixes for duels. And then they also announced that the new battleground season, which is every like what 3 or 4 months, the
Hmm.
new battleground season is starting up next month in January. So if you want to check out any of that, we have that article linked as well. Definitely has changed things up, but yeah, always kind of interesting when I see games do that. They're like, "Oh, you want a patch? Okay, well, like here's all the info, and it's live." Okay, all right.
One thing I thought was weird about that patch, though, um, obliterate. So the Death Knight card, it used to be a card
Mm,
that only you could see if you played against like the Lich King in solo mode. There's
yeah.
a lot of those cards like Frostmourne and all that stuff. So it says in the patch notes, old destroy a minion, your hero takes damage equal to its health. And the new text, according to the patch note, says destroy a minion, your hero takes 3 damage. But the card itself, in the patch notes, the picture of the card says destroy a minion, deal 3 damage to your hero. If I'm not mistaken, your hero takes 3 damage, does not get affected by spell damage, but deal 3 damage to your hero does get affected by spell damage. So it's a very minor possible wording snafu there, a little mix up that could have some kind of implication. Because I think obliterate's like a pretty
Mm,
reasonable card. 2 mana destroy a thing, take 3 damage is like really good. Um, so yeah, just a note. No, I don't think anyone played it before because deal damage, take damage equal to its health was crazy,
yeah,
but take 3 is like not so bad.
yeah. Now it's like a pretty good removable tool,
Yeah, it's
right?
insane. Or it's better
Yeah.
than the card asphyxiate. I think that asphyxiate was the one that says destroy the
Mm-hmm.
highest attack minion, where
Yep.
it's like it was good because rogue was really good, but now you just get to pay 2 mana and you choose. And since rogue is a little bit less good, it's often not a stealth minion that you're trying to kill. So I mean, asphyxiate's obviously better if stealth minions are what's going to be on the board. So
Yeah.
just a note.
Yeah, and it was kind of interesting too because all they had 9 cards that they buffed, and every
Hmm.
single 9 cards was a Death Knight card.
Yep.
So it's like, oh, okay, I guess they really want to buff up Death Knights, which,
And you know,
you know,
they didn't get much better. The Death Knight didn't
mm,
get much better. I don't. I'm looking
yeah,
at HS replay
not
stats,
really.
and in terms of classes, Death Knight's still pretty low on the rankings. Um,
Hmm.
Frost Death Knight is technically considered a tier 1 deck, as HS replay says, but that's the only one,
Yeah.
and it's squeezing in there at 53%. And then other than that, you can't find a Death Knight deck until you get to tier 4. So Frost DK got a little bit better. Uh, Other than
Yeah.
that, though, just kind of sit and chill.
Yeah, which, I mean, I definitely would like to see Death Knights be a little bit more powerful or
Hmm.
at least more like, represented because they are, it's the new class, like an entirely
Yeah,
new class. And then, I guess they didn't want a repeat of like making it too strong like they did when they introduced Demon Hunter. But I feel like they kind of undershot it and made the Death Knights like nobody wants to play them. And then it's like, oh, well, they went the other way, like Demon when they released Demon Hunter 2 years ago, it was so overpowered. They had to have day one multiple card nerfs. And
right.
then, now 2 years later, they released a new class and it's like kind of underpowered.
Well, I mean,
And
they did the same thing.
eh,
Day one back then, they released Demon Hunter, and it was extremely powerful and like the unbeatable deck. Like you had to play Demon Hunter, and then
yeah.
2 years later, they released a new class, and just like before, Demon Hunter was the most powerful deck. Demon Hunter was crazy, and you had to play Demon Hunter. So it's nothing changed, nothing at all.
Yeah. Not quite what you'd hope for.
I don't think that's what they were going for, but that's what they achieved. So,
No.
cheers to consistency, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure. Is that what we're is that what we're calling it?
That's my word for
Okay.
2020. The word for 2023 is consistency.
Love it. All right. Well, we also I mean honestly that kind of feels like all the news unless there was something else that you know of that we don't have here
I've got some
that's not
stuff for
competitive.
competitive play, but in terms of
Okay.
news, it's very chill. I think they announce BlizzCon was going to
Yeah,
happen
oh yeah, they did. Yeah. But
2023.
I mean, it was pretty much like a BlizzCon is coming back in 2023. We'll have details early next year. Like
Right,
that
right, right.
that
But the
was the announcement, classic Blizzard style, like basically
announcement of an
announcement of an
announcement.
announcement. Yeah. Exactly. But still there's already been a ton of hype around that.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, you know what actually let me ask you that since we're on this talking about like the announcement of BlizzCon. I was wondering because they used to do this, then they stopped and they branched it off. So years back, they had the Hearthstone World Championship at BlizzCon for a couple of
Hmm.
years. Then they kind of let their other games take the BlizzCon weekend for their like end of year events, and they moved the Hearthstone stuff back to like January or into December. Then at one point,
Right.
and that's kind of where it stayed now.
Hmm.
Do you think that when BlizzCon comes back, do you think that they will also, because we're also still waiting on the Hearthstone competitive announcement stuff,
We are.
and I think they kind of bumped that back a little bit, delayed a little bit because of all of the China stuff, where Chinese players and the Chinese servers and all that are no longer going to be supported. So, do you think that they will bring the Hearthstone World Championship back to BlizzCon, or do you think that they will keep it separate?
Yeah, so I think it's going to come back because I think the YouTube deal is going to. I'm pretty sure YouTube's going to go away in 2023. I believe that was the countdown that we had once it became a thing. And BlizzCon is a Twitch event, and the Hearthstone World Championship would best be suited as a Twitch event, especially if it's going to be live. And I think that they want to bring that World Championship back to being live, even if all the Masters tours or whatever events that lead up to the World Championship are all online events. I think they want to bring that World Championship live because it's a different vibe, it's a different feel, a different viewer experience, and it's a lot better on Twitch, admittedly. So at BlizzCon, I think is the best place for that particular game.
Yeah, that's fair. Because I think they stopped doing it at BlizzCon, like even before COVID. So, and I think that I can't even remember at this point, honestly. Like, honestly, COVID and stuff has just completely messed up the whole timeline of like when time has happened.
It's been 1 year and somehow three. I don't understand.
Yeah,
I'm just going with it.
exactly. Did the YouTube thing start before COVID?
Good
Was
question.
the
I'm gonna
was
go
the
look.
YouTube deal? I don't remember when the YouTube deal for that happened. Because I feel like I want to say that it was actually after they had already
February
took it away from BlizzCon
is in February 2020.
is when.
So the beginning of 2020 is when we swapped over to YouTube.
Okay, so that was literally like right before COVID
Yep.
hit.
Yep.
Okay, so yeah, I because even before that, right? They took the world champs away from BlizzCon, like they separated it.
Yeah.
And then they implemented, which I guess could have been the reason. Then they implemented the YouTube stuff. I was just kind of curious, like what you thought about that. I kind of hope that they
I
bring
would
it
love it to come
back,
back.
but at the same time, like I'm not totally convinced that they will. Um, I guess it kind of depends on what they're going to do, but obviously, again, we're still waiting for all that, so we're gonna find out. But
Yep.
yeah, I
So
think that would be sweet if they did.
so the YouTube and the ESL contract ends. Um the end of this year. So that's a pretty cool point to be at for Hearthstone in terms of esports. YouTube ending, probably going back to Twitch, like I was saying, ESL ending, maybe looking at a different home for our sports sports leagues. So that would be what Blizzard is StarCraft, right?
Yeah, and Overwatch.
Yeah, so StarCraft and StarCraft and Overwatch. I don't know if ESL did Overwatch. I know they did
I don't
CS:GO,
know.
Dota 2, and
Yeah.
then StarCraft 2. I don't know if they did
Yeah.
Overwatch, but yeah. So a lot of stuff opening up for Blizzard, a lot of contention. It seems like they can't stay away from the big news, right? In the wrong way with the China thing. So like that's really bad. Chinese players have shown themselves to be some of the best players in the game, and seeing the game without. Obviously, we had a Chinese world champion. I don't know. We miss a big subset of players by not having the Chinese players in the game. Did I freeze or did you freeze? Question. So experiencing a little bit of technical difficulty there, but that was the last bit of we were talking about in terms of Blizzard. Last thing we've got on the news is that we are an official Inked Gaming affiliate. So we have a supply drop subscription box giveaway. We'll link that in the show notes. Inked Gaming is a really, really, really cool supply chain for all your trading card game needs. So that's deck boxes, that's play mats, that's custom sleeves, custom dice. They've got it all. We do have a giveaway going. All you have to do is tweet at us at TCCG Roundtable on Twitter with the code PRIEST, as you heard in the episode last week and this week. Just say PRIEST, we'll enter you into the raffle. And that is our Inked Gaming raffle giveaway. And I believe I've got my co-host back with me.
Yeah, I think I'm back. Oh my gosh. Okay. Yes.
It's the cold. Winter's coming. If you see a White Walker pop up, send help.
I ain't going outside. No. No, I'm not even looking out there. No. If it's
Arya
out there,
Stark, preferably.
if there's a White Walker out there, it's gonna stay out there, and I'm not gonna know. I'm not gonna be any the wiser. And that's the way I'm gonna keep it. Oh,
So I was just talking about the Inked Gaming giveaway as the last little bit of news as we were getting ready to move into a competitive and organized play. But did you have anything else that you were adding?
no, that is it. Just yeah, thank you everybody who has checked out the show so far this year as we've gotten started, because I think this has been amazing to get to do this. So please, yeah, contact us. Let us know. Get in that giveaway. We would love to provide somebody that and give back to everybody.
I like that Simba learned that Ron Mexico's profile picture finally meant something.
I know, yeah.
He just thought it was Mike Vick with a mustache. Like, he had no idea. He's like, why is Mike Vick got a sombrero on?
Uh,
So yeah, moving on. Competitive play is up. We had the Hearthstone World Championships this past weekend, December 16th through 18th. We had 16 players in that, as we knew. I got to watch a lot of it. It was some very, very high level play. Bunny Hopper took the title of Hearthstone 2022 World Champion, which he and Dedraw had by far the best lineup in the tournament. And lo and behold, they got to the finals together. So we all thought it was going to be one of the two of them to walk away. And Bunny Hopper was running pretty hot. I don't know if you guys saw, but some of his draws were ridiculous. Bunny Hopper's
yeah.
already a great player, but if you want to compound luck onto that, it was just, I mean, there was no stopping that man. So congrats to Bunny Hopper. Did reach out to Bunny Hopper for to come on the show. Unfortunately, his sleep schedule and the stream schedule, or life schedule rather, did not match up with what we had. So maybe another day when we can flex out our schedules a little bit, but everybody's got holiday stuff going on, and it's end of the year, and everybody's doing a little bit of stuff. So congratulations to him, and hope to one day have him on in the future.
Yes. Yeah, it was a
Eternal
busy,
Rules.
busy
Oh,
weekend. I tried to catch some of it, but I had to watch the VODs because yeah, it was like
I ended up
starting at
watching
like
those
1
too.
a.m. for me.
I ended up watching VODs too. But I was trying to like stay off of Twitter, which hasn't been too difficult lately. But I was staying off of Twitter because I didn't want to spoil myself
Was
on like
yes,
who was playing.
yeah.
Surprises of the weekend, Levick was running really well. He was playing very methodically, as he normally does. He's a very methodical player, but I do believe he was an underdog
Yeah.
going into the event. Like I don't think him, Pascoa. I think some of those people were kind of seen as like, who know, you know. So that was really interesting to see him perform so well. 3-0 over Possessi in the top 8 was just, I mean, it was insane. Um, Bunny Hopper, of course, did draw, of course. Zhao T, it was good to see Zhao T in. He took a 3-0 loss to Dead Draw in top 8. And then it was great to see Yarla doing well as well. One of my favorite players of all time. So those were all good matches. If you would like, go check out the VODs. We'll link the that article in the show notes. But yeah, it was a really good World Championship. Very, very high level play. If there were a lot of mistakes, I didn't catch them.
Yeah. I think there was maybe only a couple that I kind of remember like hearing the casters talk about, and obviously they kind of caught it or talked about it, but
Yeah, I caught
I
one or two, but they were very
yeah.
minor and
Yeah.
largely didn't have a game. Most of them didn't have a game losing impact. They weren't like immediately like you make this misplay, you lose the game.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, there was a Miss Lethal though. We already talked about that. There was a Miss Lethal, and I never miss Lethal, so I have to catch Miss
That's
Lethals.
right. That's right.
So the Eternal World Championships was also last weekend. It was a 3 format tournament over the course of 2 days. Apple Chips was crowned the Eternal 2022 World Champion. I'm not making fun of this name, but apple chips are delicious. Um, I, I was in the store buying dinner like last week or something like that, buying stuff to cook for dinner, and I walked across some caramel apple chips, and I was like, "Wait, I'm gonna grab those," and they were delicious. So,
That
congrats to
does
Apple
sound good.
Chips, 2022 Eternal World Champion. That will be linked in the description as well. In terms of Yu-Gi-Oh, we have got a announcement for the 250th Yu-Gi-Oh Championship Series, or YCS. That is crazy because I remember YCS number 1. So it's been decades. So 250 YCSs. It will be a multi-continent event. There will be a North American, South American, and European YCS all running concurrent. That's only ever happened one other time, and that was for the 200th YCS. Um, and that was a massive event. There was over 7,000 players across 3 events. So expecting just as big, if not larger, of a turnout. The North American one will be in Los Angeles, California. I would like to hope that me and my lovely wife will be in attendance for that event. The next event that we plan on attending is YCS Las Vegas, which is in February. So we hopefully will be able to spend our Valentine's Day in Vegas. We might get married again.
Oh my
There's
gosh.
also the One Piece card game. If you're into the anime One Piece has released a new card game. It has hit the streets blazing. There's tons and tons of people picking up on the game. Cards are already shooting up in price. There's a lot of fan service in there. I won't elaborate further, but there's a specific, oh, too much further. There's a specific card which features a scantily clad member of the One Piece anime, and it's holographic. It's like max rated, and it's also in a good deck, so it's like $175 already. So those are some
Dang.
really awesome cards. Visually, they're really cool. Rarities are nice, and the pull rates I think are pretty good for the high rarity stuff. I don't think decks are too expensive to build. I think they have a disparity between high rarity and like cards that are still accessible at lower rarities, so that if you don't want a max deck, you don't have to have it. I think they did a good job with that. Additionally, in Yu-Gi-Oh, Yu-Gi-Oh is releasing a 25th anniversary. It's been 25 years of Yu-Gi-Oh. They're releasing a 25th anniversary set. It's going to have some Egyptian god cards. It's going to have a new rarity. They're also re-releasing the first 6 sets of Yu-Gi-Oh as new standalone sets, as if they were just released again. a lot of cards from those first 6 sets of Yu-Gi-Oh! Never saw another printing. So there's some cards that still get played. You know how you kind of play, like we play Wild and Hearthstone. There's kind of that format in Yu-Gi-Oh! Where you can just go back and play the older formats. But a lot of those cards have gotten really, really expensive because those old sets never got printed again. So reprinting that is really cool. Unlike Magic, these cards will be playable. So that's going to be cool as a contrast to the Magic that released the cards that could not be used in games but cost $1,000. These packs will be $4.99 a piece, just like regular packs. So that's really good. But that's all I have for competitive play and organized play. Glad to see new card games popping off. Glad to see World Championships coming to a conclusion and ready for the 2023 year.
Yeah, we're definitely going to keep talking about it, and I want to mention a couple, but there's like 2 or 3 like new card games that I think are already getting a lot of attention that are coming out next year in 2023. So going to be really interesting to see kind of how a lot of these card games develop, how popular some of these get, how much the like competitive scene sticks around for these. So, definitely we'll keep everyone up to date with those and continue talking about them. But
I will say, One Piece is a Bandai game, and we know what happens with Bandai games. And if you don't know, they fail. So my hopes are not very high for the One Piece game because it is a Bandai game. Hopefully they do it right this time. They've had try after try after try. We'll see where this one goes. But I know that One Piece is one of the largest, if not the largest anime in the world. I know it's one of the longest running, if not the longest running, with thousands of episodes or chapters if you read the manga. It is still not completed. It's been decades. But yeah, One Piece is super, super popular. So hopefully the fan base backing that and playing that game will drive the sales and drive the ability to create another competitive card game, which I love to see.
one of the card games that I was talking about that is releasing next year in the spring is that Battle
Battle
Saga
Spirit Saga,
Spirits. Yeah, did I say it backwards?
same thing.
Battle
Battle and
Spirits
two S
Saga
words.
is also Bandai. But with that card game, they also did like guarantee that there's going to be the $1 million prize pool. So
Hmm.
it seems like maybe they're putting more, at least in the forefront for that
Yeah,
game. So that could lead it to be more successful. But kind of interesting that like Bandai is kind of getting into a lot of different card games here.
dabbling here and there.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and talk about our main topic then. As you mentioned, we do have the new year coming up, but you had mentioned, and we actually didn't get a chance to do this, which I think works out in our benefit, kind of, because now we're using it here. We didn't get to talk about it over Thanksgiving, but can you like kind of talk a little bit about what your idea was for this topic so we can kind of get an idea where part of this conversation is going to be going?
Yeah, so I really wanted to talk on Thanksgiving week before all this stuff happened about thankfulness in terms of where we're at in the card game community. I know for me, my biggest area of thankfulness is for the game Yu-Gi-Oh! Because some of my best friends in the world have come from Yu-Gi-Oh! And actually, my wife is as a result of me playing Yu-Gi-Oh! So I could not be more thankful to have been a part of such a card game community as Yu-Gi-Oh! And then to parlay into Hearthstone and be a part of such a great community there as well. I mean, I spent tons and tons of time with some of the people that I've been nearest and dearest to in my life playing those card games between Yu-Gi-Oh! And Hearthstone. Um, so they've really, really, really taught me a lot about sociability, about community, about teamwork, about helpfulness, about mentorship, about menteeship, because all of those, I've been humbled in all of those games, and I've had the ability to humble others in all of those games. So, just a really good point to talk about, just like being thankful for those things, and for the things that you've done in the game, or that I've done in the game, or that anyone's done in the game. Even if it's winning a local, winning. Everybody's experienced that feeling of like winning your first thing, whether it be a match, a game, doing something with a crazy deck that you built and you didn't find on the internet, or winning the locals or whatever. That those are all experiences that gave you this sensation of joy and glee. And I don't think that we should take that for granted, especially because when I was growing up, for sure, you were playing card games, you're probably getting teased for it, right? So now to be able to be as open as we are, like putting ourselves out there to just say, hey, like this is what I love to do, this is what I'm associated with, and I'm thankful for that. I can appreciate that now as the person who I am today, much more than I can as the person who, in high school was hiding the fact for until I was in my late 20s. No one in my high school that I went to school, high school or college with, knew what I played. Like they didn't know at all. I would be like in my dorm room practicing or drawing with my solitaire with my Yu-Gi-Oh deck, and then my roommate would be on the way back, and I'd be like, "Oh, let me put my cards all up." Um, I would like not want to tell my friends where I was going. I would just be like, "Oh, I'm going to Las Vegas, or I'm going to Philadelphia. I'm just taking a trip for the weekend," not telling them that I was playing in like a YCS or a big event or the national championship or whatever. I would just say that I was going on a trip somewhere. So being able to be as open as I am now about it is much more peaceful, I will say, and feels like something to be thankful for. And so, like reflecting at the end of the year and looking towards what next year is going to look like, it just seems like the perfect thing to talk about here.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow, I don't think that I actually knew that about you. By the way, uh, that kind of little bit of history that there. Yeah, I guess like I feel like maybe I had kind of the opposite experience. Like growing up, I played Pokemon and then started playing Magic at 8 years old. But for me, it was like, I was at that time before we actually adopted my cousins officially. I was the oldest of four kids before it became oldest of six. And my parents, were like big old gamers and nerds and stuff too. They owned a
Hmm.
magic shop. So, like, I think for me, it was just kind of like a natural, like, this is what we do. Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
we do these cards um, yeah, then like getting into high school and stuff, it was kind of weird because I had played Magic, and then, in high school, I kind of stopped and faded off a little bit from that and like didn't really keep up with it. But like, so I was kind of still made fun of because I did, but then also like I kind of fit in with the people who did play. So it was like this
Yeah.
weird, this weird, like, I don't really know because it's like, do I fit in with the crowd who's like, the quote unquote nerds who play
Right.
cards, or do I not? Um, and honestly, I think like for me, it was weird because I kind of had this experience of I was open about playing the card games and playing games and being a nerd and stuff. But honestly, until Hearthstone and finding that community there, like I never felt like I fit in, even though I was open about
Yeah.
playing those games. And so, like, yeah, like looking back for me, I think finding a community where I felt like I was part of something and that I was just able to feel like I fit in, like
Hmm.
that for me is like such a huge thing. And over time, like I think for me it's I felt even more and more like
Hmm.
accepted and like I fit in and just like, yes, this is what, like you said, this is what I enjoy doing. Like this is who I am. This is, what I do. So kind of interesting how we both kind of came to that same place of like that kind of acceptance, but we took
Yeah.
different, different paths, almost opposite paths, to get to that
Right.
same point.
So specifically, I came from a social status in like high school where, or elementary school, I played Pokemon and you played with your friends, but like there were always the people who were like, "Oh, y'all are playing Pokemon." Um, and then as I got older, like in high school, I was kind of the Mr. Do It All. Like I played sports and I was in academic clubs and I was on the chess team and like quiz bowl and like I did all the stuff. And so also having that, it almost felt like I was too old to be enjoying what I was enjoying to like go home and be like, I'm gonna enjoy Yu-Gi-Oh! Or I'm gonna enjoy Pokemon. Because like the events that I would go to, like locals or big tournaments, I wouldn't see anybody that I knew from my area. I would only see the people who I met up with, and those became my friends. So more so than the people I went to school with, it was the people I met in those communities that I became friends with and who I made lasting connections with. Um, Not the people who I spent every day with. So a little bit different. But like balancing all of the stuff that I was doing and also trying to get good in these different like card games felt like a task because as always, I feel like in my entire life, my time has always been limited, even though it hasn't. Um, but like I would, have like practice or meetings or whatever, or like when I was playing Yu-Gi-Oh in college, I mean, I was in student government and I had obviously all of my classes and I had a job and like everything, all this stuff, like, and trying to still fit in. Like, I'm gonna go to Detroit this weekend, and it was so it was a lot of effort put in to make that hobby into a hobby. But yeah, that's where I come
Yeah.
from in terms of why I'm so thankful for where I've landed.
Yeah.
And so, like, what are some of the things that you feel like? So, one of the questions that we've got is some events or accolades that you had or are grateful for. What do you have in that realm?
Oh my gosh. Honestly, it's it's starting to become a lot, actually. I mean, first of all, like Hearthstone as a whole, right, has been out for at this point, it's December. Uh, I started in beta in January, so I think next month I'll be hitting 9 years playing Hearthstone, which is a
Right.
long time. Um, so I guess like the overall for me, I'm just so grateful for Hearthstone and like finding the mostly like the podcast community first, because very early on when I was playing, I discovered podcasts and I'd actually never listened to podcasts before, and I found this and I was like, oh my god, these people are talking about the card game, like this is so cool, and it was like I just didn't know that that was even a thing. And it turned into listening to like 17 different Hearthstone podcasts every single week. Yes, there were that many.
Yeah.
And like that just became, like a habit for me almost. But before finding that, before finding Hearthstone and like sticking with Hearthstone, I had honestly never had a passion for anything that I actually stuck with.
Hmm.
And now, like over this last year, I've also found out that I have ADHD, which now
Hmm.
looking back, I'm like, oh, that's why I like, switched
Yeah.
hobbies every like 2 weeks. Like, oh, legit. Like now that makes sense. Um, but for me, it started to turn into a like, what's wrong with me?
Hmm.
Like why can't I find a passion? Why can't I do things for very long? Like
Hmm.
what's wrong with me? And so then when I did find Hearthstone and this community and I stuck with it, and then it evolved into doing my own content, and then even further down the line doing casting and running tournaments and doing all this other stuff. I guess for me, like it evolved into a like, wow, I've actually found something that I enjoy doing in my
Hmm.
life, even if like what I'm doing with the game changes, because sometimes I'll be a little bit more like focused on playing tournaments. And then maybe sometimes I'm like, no, I really want to cast. Or maybe
Yeah.
sometimes it's like, oh no, I just really want to like stream and have fun and just make my own decks. But I can do all of that and I can still have that. So overall, I'm just incredibly, incredibly grateful for you know the game in itself and the community surrounding it that I've been able to have that in my life.
Hmm.
A couple of like really big moments for me would be my husband and I went to DreamHack Atlanta in November of 2018. Feels
Hmm.
like so long ago now. And that was the very last tournament. First, it was my first LAN tournament that I had
Hmm.
played in. And it was the last tournament at that point that was like awarding, whatever the points were when they were doing the point system and stuff.
Hmm.
So there were like 200 people there playing in this Hearthstone tournament at this event. And they also had kind of like it wasn't really like a backstage because it was kind of just like in the back corner of this building, like behind a curtain.
Hmm.
That was the quote unquote backstage. But I
Nice.
got reached out to on Twitter from the people that were there from Blizzard who were doing interviews. and
Mhm.
they asked and reached out to me and said, "Hey, do you want to come back here and do an interview with us?" I was like, "Oh my gosh, like this is the most
Yeah.
amazing thing." Like, yes, yes, I do. So I got to go back there, in the whole, like, they had the whole little setup, right? The big old armchair with like the little fireplace,
Yeah.
the whole setup, they had like the official cameraman, all the fancy like camera setups, all that stuff. Gave me instructions like, okay, we're going to ask you this question. And then just like basically when you answer, like repeat the question back to us. And then, so I did that. And then later in the day, they actually aired it like during the broadcast. So everybody that was watching like at the event or watching at home on Twitch got to see that. Or if they went
Yeah.
back and watched it, and like for me, it was just so cool. And I had, some unfortunate, there was a lot of sexist crap that was said in the Twitch
Mhm.
comments and that kind of stuff. But I also had a lot of people who were like it was awesome to see me be just like so genuine with my interview. I still remember that the question about like what was my favorite moment playing Hearthstone
Mhm.
or what was my favorite moment, my answer was the first time I hit legend. Because for
Yeah.
me, like I'm not a player who can just go in and just be like, oh cool, I'll just like build these couple of decks and then like a month into playing Hearthstone, oh I'm legend, like what now? Like that's not me, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it took me a long time before I got there. So I said that, and some people made fun of me, whatever. But I also had a lot of people who reached out to me and like, thank you for being so genuine, or like they kind of recognized themselves in a way in that. And then I also had Jocelyn from the Angry
Mhm.
Chicken. At that point, she was actually working the event, like backstage, working the social media stuff. And so I'm sitting out in the audience like watching this interview of me, and I'm like
Yeah.
tweeting about it, right? I'm like, oh my god, like I'm on Twitter, like this is so cool, like taking pictures of the big screen on my phone and stuff. And that was just such a cool moment. And then she came out and found me and my husband in the chairs, and she's like, actually told me, she said, like, thank you so much for your excitement and for sharing this and stuff. And I was like, of course at that time I'm like, oh my god, like Jocelyn is talking to me. Like, I don't know, it was just, but it's one of those things where for some people that might not seem like a big deal, but for
Yeah.
me that was a
Huge.
huge, yeah, it was huge, and it was a turning point, I think, in how I see myself in the community and how I saw myself as a person. Like I felt like a valid human being that like
Mhm.
was worthy of anything, where I'd never really felt that before. And I felt like I was like getting recognition even just being a player and being a person in the community. And for me,
Mhm.
like that was such a huge turning point that I think honestly, because of that, and especially because of like Jocelyn coming out there and talking to me, and me being like, oh my god, like one of my idols is coming out here and talking to me,
Yeah.
that created a point for me where I started doing more after
Right.
that, and really have put myself out there even more, and I'm continuing to do that. But that is one thing that like I am just extremely grateful for in that point in time, because I don't think that I would have had the courage or the inspiration, to actually pursue as much as I did if that
Mhm.
hadn't have happened.
That's freaking awesome. I didn't know about the Joss thing and the interview
Yeah.
thing from the DreamHack in Atlanta. I had no idea. So that's interesting in terms of historically speaking for you. So glad I got some
Yeah.
insight on that.
Yeah. Well, what about you? Do you have like one that really sticks out for you?
Okay, so I'm a humble brag real quick. Real quick, because I don't do it often, but I'm gonna do it. I feel like I have been able to be some level of successful every time I pick up a trading card. Um, and the thing about me is that like I love stuff and I want to hold on to stuff. So I keep playing things that I love. And I know that this is something that I'll talk about a little bit more in detail, but I focus. I put my focus in a bunch of places at once instead of one place. And my whole life, I've been like that. I've always been a multitasker. I've always been like pay attention to multiple things at once. I would like play. I would have like a Hearthstone tournament on this screen, and then a Yu-Gi-Oh event on this screen, and in the middle I have Netflix playing like Dave Chappelle, and I'd be like playing Marvel Snap on my phone, like all these things like at one time instead of just focusing on one thing because I don't know what it is. I'm not ADHD. I've been there. But I can focus. I feel like time is so precious that I want to do it all now. Um, so let me talk about the events that I've done well in. So the most prominent game I've played was Yu-Gi-Oh. My very first top that was a national level top in Yu-Gi-Oh was the national championship in 2013. Made top 16, was a trap card away from the world championship. That was my very first time making it in the top cut. After that, I went on a pretty good tear. So I'll just name the events. So Nationals 2013, Chicago, Illinois. Immediately after that was ARG Circuit Series, Columbus, Ohio, top 8. Immediately after that was ARG Circuit Series, Atlanta, top 8. After that was YCS Yu-Gi-Oh! Championship Series, Dallas, Texas, top 32. And then Yu-Gi-Oh! What's my last one? Chicago, Columbus, Atlanta, Dallas. There's one more in there that I forget. So I have five total tops in Yu-Gi-Oh! And these are all of those events with Nationals being the biggest. Nationals is over 2,000 players. And so to make it into the top 16 out of 2,000 players at a national championship to me felt like the accomplishment of lifetime. I was bummed because I didn't go to Worlds and I was so close, but like at the same time I was like, wow, this is like so crazy. And regional top 8, so like regional level events are usually a few hundred people, so 300 or 400 people. So they're like not small events, but they're over the course of one day. So you just play all your rounds in one day, and then they cut to just the top 8, and that's it. But the regional top 8s, I can't even count them anymore. I've got dozens and dozens of regional top 8s. It seems like every time I play a regional, I top 8. So that's Yu-Gi-Oh! And then Magic, I've only played one event, which was a Birmingham, Alabama Invitational Qualifier, first place, won that event. It's the only thing I played in Magic. I'll let it go after that. Hearthstone, Zotac Black Claws Qualifier, first place. And then Zotac Black Claws Qualifier Finals, top 4, which they cut the top 4, and all 4 got invites to Winter Championships, or Winter Playoffs. So Winter Playoffs participant in 2019. And then DreamHack Anaheim top, what was I, top 4, something like that. So DreamHack Anaheim top 4. That's pretty much my Naruto World Championship 2009 top 8. Very short-lived career there. But yeah, just like if I feel like if I pick up a game and I really want to play, I'm gonna find a way to be good at it. So I'm thankful for like my intuitiveness when it comes to trading cards. I feel like it's really, really my passion. It's just why I want to start a store, a, a shop of my own. That's definitely somewhere in my future. I'm just too tied into that community, too tied into all of those games to not be somewhere involved in that more. So yeah, that's just like I'm thankful for my abilities in the games, and I'm thankful for the communities that I've been put into to play those games. So yeah, that was kind of long winded, but yeah.
That's okay. I feel like my story was kind of long too,
No,
but
no, no, it's fine.
yeah, like you kind of made me think too. Then like all the things that I've done, I guess I kind of skimmed over it, but it's like yeah, I started streaming and then started doing like podcasting that I've done.
Hmm.
And I started casting, which was something
Yep.
for me that like, for a while I'd be like you, right? I'd have like Hearthstone open on, on one part of the screen. I'd have the tournaments, and like I would get to the point where I would be watching these tournaments and I would start saying the plays out loud. I'd be like, oh yeah, they should do this, you know, or like, oh,
Right.
okay, if they did this, then this could happen. And like I would basically just be saying potential lines and stuff out loud. And I noticed that more often than not, I was saying the same things as the casters would be bringing up. And they got to the
Right.
point where I was like, I I want to try that. Like I think I could do that. Like I really think that
Yep.
I could be good at that. And you know, since then, I mean, I've been on this, it's been like a 4-year journey of casting. I've been casting a lot of like smaller events, started casting just stuff on my own stream, leading up to now the last 3 years. I am kind of like the go-to Hearthstone caster for the Supergirl Gamer Pro series.
Hmm.
And I also got invited twice last year to cast on official broadcasts for Hearthstone events. One was one of the Grandmasters America days. And then a couple months later, I did one of the 3 days of a weekend of one of the Masters Tour
Yep.
casting. And it's like, you know, looking back at like, you know, me 8 years ago to me now, I'm like, holy crap. I almost feel like a different person, like completely,
Yeah.
you know, but I'm so grateful for that opportunity. And again, just, you know, all of these, I think you and I are both like very, very motivated. And, you know, when we have things like that happen, it's just like, okay, let's like keep, how far can we push this? How far can we push
Yeah.
ourselves? Like, let's, you know, let's keep doing that. And I think that's a great segue as well into the next part of our conversation, which is now we're at this point, you know, you've talked about all of those tournament, you know, finishes that you've had amongst several different games. You've had success. What does your next year look like? I know you kind of mentioned it in last week's episode, but let you know, deep dive a little bit more into that. What does
Oh.
2023 look like for you?
I really want to be focused in 2023 on one thing, and I just want to be really good at the one thing, and I want to see how far me being good at the one thing and like putting all my effort into it will take me. So I'm doing Yu-Gi-Oh! Um, all 2023. Just gonna put all my effort into that. So no Snap, no Hearthstone. I might just log in to like claim free stuff, um, but I'm not gonna be playing competitively. And here's my conundrum: unless the competitive 2023 system is so good that I just can't not play.
For Hearthstone?
Yeah,
Yeah, when okay.
but that's neither here nor there. So I'm letting go of all the other games I play. I play RuneScape, I play Marvel Snap, I play Hearthstone, I play Yu-Gi-Oh, I play Pokemon VGC. So none of those. I won't be playing any of those. I might, just play stuff in my spare time, but really I want to be testing for Yu-Gi-Oh. So my spare time wants to be towards making sure I'm doing well at the next event. Um, so yeah, that's my focus for 2023. And another the follow up question is, what do you have planned to work towards those goals? I want to get with some of the people whom I know in the Yu-Gi-Oh community who are very very good players, like world champion caliber players. I know quite a lot, and I want to get with them and just kind of retool myself fundamentally because like I understand the game 100%, but the game has changed a lot since I quit and came back. So like I still feel like I'm in the relearning phase of the game, and there are things that did not matter when I played that matter heavily now, like positioning and where you summon things and where you set things and where you activate things. Uh, all that stuff didn't necessarily matter, but now there are cards that affect. So like you have to use something called a field center in Yu-Gi-Oh, and it can be like a token like this. I use this Mew as a field center when I play, but because Yu-Gi-Oh has 5 zones in the front for your monsters and 5 zones in the back, and then 2 what are called extra monster zones, there are cards that affect columns. So like if it's played in this place on my side of the field, it might affect the exact column across on your side of the field. And so that wasn't something that I was used to when I played. And there's like this heavily played trap card. It's called Infinite Impermanence. If you activate it, it negates a monster's effect, just kind of like silences it. Um, but for the rest of the turn after you activate it, any spell or trap card that's activated in that same column is negated. And so I ran into an event where I was playing and I was doing my thing, and this guy flipped infinite impermanence. And I was like, okay, whatever. I kept playing. And then I activated a spell card in that same column where infinite impermanence was, because in my day, it didn't matter where I put my card down at, but this mattered. So he was like, yeah, it's negated. And I was like, wait, what? And he's like, yeah, your card's negated because you played it right here. And I was like, well, can I just not play it right here? And I was like, no, you already did it. And so just something like small things I got to get used to. And that comes with playing more and having the focus of like playing the one game. So I know all those changes as they happen, which is just something that I didn't have this year. So I spread myself really thin, playing all the games that I mentioned, and I didn't do particularly well in anything. So not one thing that I feel like I made an accomplishment in, and that's definitely something that I want to change. So if I do play any Hearthstone, it'll be because Yu-Gi-Oh is not in a good place, like the format's bad, or they've done something with the game that's just not bearable, and then I would put my full focus into Hearthstone. So definitely one or the other, probably not both.
That's totally fair, especially if you want to get to those high levels. Like, thinking back to our interview with Nathan Sawyer, who won the world championship for Magic this year. We interviewed him a couple of weeks ago, and he was kind of saying that too. And when we talked with Lambie series before that, he was talking about how he kind of came from one card game to Hearthstone, right? Very similar. And it's difficult to try to balance playing at a high level across multiple games at once. So,
Mm-hmm.
definitely I like that focus. I'm going to ask you, like, kind of what is your approach? Have you thought about, like, how you're going to approach it more than just focus on one? Like, are you going to commit a certain amount of hours each week? Or are you going to say, like, okay, during this month, let's say just like January or whatever, I need to be practicing decks for the February event? Or do you have kind of a breakdown, like an approach that you're going to take this year that maybe others can kind of learn from as well?
So really just trying to keep up with the card pool. More than anything, I really want to keep up the card pool and the fundamentals. Because the thing about Yu-Gi-Oh! Is that it's so unpredictable because the ban list is not timed. You don't know when it's going to happen. So I could be practicing this deck that I've got sitting right here, and then for the Las Vegas in February, and then in late January, they could release a ban list that completely kills this deck. And so I've got all this time and all this practice in, and now this deck I can't play. So I really have to just know the cards very well. I have to know the interactions very well, and I have to know the fundamentals very well, because ultimately what it boils down to is if there is a ban list, everyone's going to have the same amount of time to practice. But if fundamentally I know more about the interactions that happen in the game outside of the deck that I play, which was kind of my problem. I knew this deck that I'm playing very well, very well. I feel like I can pilot it exceptionally, except for when I'm playing something of which I don't know what it does. So I played in the remote dual YCS, and every deck that I played that I knew what the other deck did was an easy win. Every deck that I played that I had to like read my opponent's cards, or it was a deck that was older and nobody, like, it was during the time where I completely quit and wasn't keeping up with the game at all, and somebody kind of revived it. Even though it might have been a weaker deck, I was losing because I didn't know where to cater my interactions to. And that's like a big deal for me. So that's definitely where I'm going to put my focus at, is just learning the fundamentals and learning cards and interactions. And I think that'll just come with me playing with different things, not just the deck that I like, but with the deck that beats me, with the deck that I don't like, the grindy, control-y. I don't like the grindy, control-y, slow Yu-Gi-Oh deck where you set a bunch of trap cards and you hope they don't have something to destroy your trap cards. I don't like that. But you kind of got to do that sometimes because you just need to know what choke points are. Like, choke points are super important in Yu-Gi-Oh! You have to know, if I stop you here, you can't do anything for the rest of the turn, because it's the game is such an all gas, no brakes kind of a game where, like, turn one, you can play every card in your deck if you wanted turn one. There are no resources, there are no limitations aside from the cards that you have. So just knowing choke points and saying, if I stop you here, your turn ends, or if I stop you here, you could keep playing. And like I said, I ran into a couple of those situations where I was like, this guy played this weak card that did this thing, and I was like, I could stop that, but like, I don't think it's worth it. Let me see where this goes. And then he gets to a point where he plays this card that does two things, and now I can only stop one of them. But if I stopped the week card, I would have stopped the whole thing to begin with, but not knowing that, I take a loss there. So that's definitely where I'm at. Going to be practicing those things, trying to play different decks, trying to sharpen myself. I'm lucky to be in an area where there's a locals within 30 minutes of me every single day, Monday through Sunday. There's 8 locals every single day. So any day that I wanted to go practice, I could go practice.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's really good. I was just curious if you had kind of like a, kind of like a plan or a system for yourself on like kind of how you were going to approach things. Did
Just methodically, like
Okay,
I'm just gonna learn one thing at a time. Honestly,
gotcha.
just like if it's gonna be positioning, I'll learn position.
Okay. Do they know, like, have they kind of like announced everything for the year ahead of time, or do they announce things kind of continuously
You
throughout the year?
so the thing about them is that they announce things usually about 2 months out, but there's every so often where they'll be like, there's a YCS in London, and it'll be like in 3 weeks, and everybody's scrambling to figure out how they're gonna get there. I'm like, oh man, we wish we had more, advanced notice, but so yeah, it's up in the air with them.
Okay, interesting. All right. Well, I am excited to see where your journey goes with this because I have seen you compete. I was there with you at DreamHack Anaheim, and
You are.
like, yeah. So like I know when you put your mind to it and you get like that focus, and you'll hear that about people who make it to some world championships and stuff. There's even some players in like the Hearthstone where the casters always kind of talk about that, right? Like when they set their mind to it, they do well, or when they're not focused or when they're not
Mhm.
caring, like that's when you see them kind of don't really do very well. But you are definitely someone who, like, when you set your mind to it and you're like, this is what I'm gonna do, you you do it. You get it done. So I am
I
very
appreciate that.
excited. Yeah.
So to flip the script, what are your goals and intentions and like your plans on getting there? What are you trying to do in this year?
Yeah. So I've got, I've got a lot of goals, a lot of ambitions. Kind of like you had said earlier, like kind of split across a lot of stuff. Um, but specifically for like card games, I really do want to do more casting. And it might not potentially be a card game, but one of my big goals for 2023 is to cast a game that's not Hearthstone. I mean, of course, I want to keep casting Hearthstone as well, but I want to add games to like my casting, skill, like my casting repertoire, so that I can, continue growing that avenue. Um,
Hmm.
I haven't decided yet, like what game I would want to. Could try to get into other card games, but one thing that I realized for myself is that I feel like for card games, especially, it's so difficult to do
Hmm.
multiples like at that level, and I don't really have an in-depth background with other card games like I do Hearthstone, so I really would have to dive, I think, super heavily into that other game. Um, but it's not out of the question for sure. But that,
Yeah.
over 2022, even within Hearthstone, early on in January, I actually did cast a tournament for the Mercenaries format.
Oh
And
yeah,
then,
you did.
yeah, I did. And then throughout the year, a lot of standard casting. And then towards the end of the year, also for the Supergirl Gamer Pro event that I did this year, they added Battlegrounds. And so I actually casted, like within the same weekend, even for the championships, we had the the Supergirl Battlegrounds and the Supergirl Standard. So I casted both of those. So
Yep.
even this year, like within Hearthstone, I casted 3 different game modes. So my big goal next year is to kind of look beyond that and see what else I can do. But to get into some of that, part of it might have to be starting with like hosting.
Yeah.
So I might have to kind of, look into how can I do some kind of like interviewing style of stuff, interviewing players of other games and things like that to kind of move into that. So that's the approach that I'm going to take there. As you said earlier, I'm still really waiting on
The
the
announce.
announcements for Hearthstone to like see, because if it is something that's like, okay, maybe I can't do this, then that's definitely something that I might jump into even more. In terms of other card games, I do also kind of have the goal of I definitely want to at least kind of play, even if it's casually, a variety of card games, physical
Hmm.
card games, really. And the first one I'm starting with is Flesh and Blood, because
We
I've
know.
kind of already dived into that. Um, but yeah, so I actually have like a whole, like all my cards that I ordered from TCG Player have started coming in. So I have like a stack, like a huge
Oh,
stack
nice.
of envelopes. So I'm gonna turn it into content as well. Like gonna create a video of me like opening all those up, putting the decks together from those deck lists. Probably film some of the event that I'm gonna go to. We're going to a tournament, mid January.
Hmm.
So, do some of that, but see how that goes. Like, see how it kind of feels playing in person and playing a physical card game again, because I haven't done that in so long.
Yeah.
So, gonna be doing that. And again, there's those other couple of card games, right? Like maybe I want to try and dive into and see what the Battle Spirit Saga is like.
Hmm.
And then supposedly fall next year is when Disney Lorcana is
Yep.
releasing. So probably going to try to jump into that a little bit, see kind of how that goes. So it's not necessarily like a huge competitive goal that you have, but my goals, I guess, are kind of to just explore more card games and kind of see what can come from like the different card games.
Yeah. I love it. And I can't wait for 2023.
Heck yes. Yeah, me too. I'm excited.
So is that about it for today?
I think so.
That's pretty
I
good.
think so. Yeah.
I think that I'm excited for myself being in the world championship for Yu-Gi-Oh. I'm really excited about that. What
Being
are you
in the World
excited about?
Championship.
What are you most excited about? Yeah, I'm most excited that I'm going to be in the world championship for Yu-Gi-Oh. What are you most
When
excited about?
when is that, by the way? Do they have like a time frame that
It's,
they usually
no, it's
it varies?
usually
Okay.
midsummer. It's usually midsummer,
Okay.
mid to
All
late
right.
summer. So nationals is usually like beginning of the summer, like June, and worlds is like August, September.
Okay. Okay. Heck
So late
yes.
summer, I guess, is more accurate.
Sure. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing you in the Yu-Gi-Oh World Championship. Hell yes, let's go. Um, I think the thing for me that like I'm most excited for is just I think getting a taste for more games and like more communities.
Hmm.
Um, because again, like we talked about earlier, like since I was a kid, right, I've played card games and it's just kind of been a part of my life and like who I am for so long.
Right.
And I I love Hearthstone and I love the community and I'm super grateful for a lot of the opportunities I've gotten, especially with like casting.
Hmm.
But also at the same time, it does feel a little bit limited in, like the casting opportunities, for example. Like, it's kind of a very closed system
Yeah.
for casting. So to try to actually like make enough income off of that, for example,
Hmm.
on its own, it's just really difficult to do. So for me, like yeah, I'm just really looking forward to kind of spreading out
Hmm.
my interest, kind of showcasing like what I can do across other games and seeing where that can take me in the future.
Okay. I like it.
Yeah. So anybody that's listening, we would absolutely love to also hear, what your goals are. And they don't have to be anywhere near, like, I know Itachi and I have ginormous goals,
Lofty
like,
goals.
yeah,
Lofty.
very, very lofty goals. So, please though, even if you feel like, oh, it's small, or if you feel like it's stupid, please share it with us. Like, we'd love to hear what your goals are or what you want to do, even if it's, maybe a goal of you want to attend your first, Friday Night Magic tournament, or you want to attend your first thing in person, and actually try your hand at playing against somebody in person. That's a huge step for a lot of people. So, anything, you want to try hitting legend, or I'm trying to think of what some of the like legend equivalent ranks are in some of the other games, and I'm not thinking of it.
There's like
Mythic,
Legend,
maybe,
there's
like,
Infinite and Snap, there
yeah.
is I don't know what other games have like bona fide ladder systems.
A lot of the online ones do. So,
High
like,
MMR and
yeah,
battlegrounds.
yeah. I mean, even if it's something like that's amazing, reaching for new personal bests or trying to hit those goals. Like, please let us know what your goals are. We definitely
Yep.
would love to hear that. And there's multiple ways that you can get a hold of us to tell us what those goals are. You can email us at tccgroundtable@protonmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter, reach out to us there about your goals. And with that keyword for the giveaway that Itachi was talking about earlier, twitter.com TCCG
Priest.
Roundtable. That's right. Priest. Just message us, priest. And while you're on Twitter, check out that top pinned tweet there to join into our Discord. You can find the link there. Jump in the Discord. Let us know as well. Share your goals. And if you want to check out the video version, we always have these live every week on my YouTube channel, youtube.com, dragonrider TCCG. And of course, anywhere that you can listen to podcasts. A little bit difficult to tell us your goals there, but you can check it out and then reach out to us in those other places. And absolutely, please check out our Inked Gaming affiliate link as well. Check out all of the cool play mats and dice bags and all that kind of stuff there, so that you can, you know, find some cool stuff and help us out directly along the way. You got anything else, Itachi?
Um, do the things. A friend of mine says this on his podcast. I'm not copying it, but it's genuinely what I feel. Do the things that make you happy, as long as they don't hurt anyone else.
Yeah, completely agree. Completely agree. So, thank you everyone so much for joining us, not only this week, but each and every week as we have started this. We will be taking next week off and we will be restarting up again in the new year. So, I guess for the last time of 2022, thank you for joining us this week, and we'll see you at the roundtable.
Have a good night.